with the island? That's the beach that starts, well, you can get into the middle of it by going down the transfer station road, and it dead ends. Go past the transfer station, formerly known as the dump, and it dead ends at the beach. And there's been quite a bit of activity there in the last 2 years of changing the slope. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as we go along, but this is West Beach. And during these, I'll probably focus on the walk that I'm doing, but I'm also going to be throwing in, usually at the end of the walk, just things that are going on Block Island from a natural history perspective. So you'll see in the fine print down there, it says, West Beach, humans and nature, plus a great tree frog plea. So stay tuned for the surprise ending. All right, I will go ahead and go to the next slide, I think. I'm hoping. Maybe this way. Huh. Okay. First glitch number 1, it's not advancing. Your screen is sharing. Huh. Well, I wonder if it's thinking. I can't believe this. Oh, there we go. I think maybe it just takes a little more time than I was giving it. So this is where we are. We're on the West Beach, and I think I can, yeah. Can you see my pointer when I move it? Maybe not. Charlotte, you can give a heads up. Okay, there we go. So this is the north end of Block Island, Sock'em Pond, the Sandy Point, the North Point, and the area we're looking at is highlighted here on the left. And this map, although it's a little small perhaps, has, I'm going to try to expand it. Oops. Oh, okay, good. Not good. There we go. Well, I won't try to expand it, but the trail is here, and we're starting at this is West Beach Road. It goes to the transfer station. It starts right here at number 1, and I do have numbers that correspond to the upcoming slides. And you could go down on this beach and go in either direction. This little walk is going to do like a little loop along the beach, and then up over the new path that was created last year when they redefined the area and removed a lot of trash and old garbage that had been, because this had all been part of the former landfill on Block Island. And then we could go further. You could go all the way to the North Light if you wanted, following this beach, which is really quite beautiful now. And if you did, you would notice lots of little ponds fairly close to the edge. This one, I'm not sure has a name. It's sort of connected to Wash Pond. Wash Pond is right here, and it drains and is connected and is right on the edge. And then the next pond up is Middle Pond. And if you go a little farther, Sock'em Pond, which you can see over here. And these ponds are, as sea level rise comes, there's a great likelihood that they will start to be breached by the ocean, which may be a good thing because it may form new salt marshes, but we won't dwell on that too much. And let's see if I can advance to the next. There we go. So here's our starting point, number 1. And this post is here, but it doesn't have a sign on it. But
Kim, it hasn't advanced. I'm sorry.
This is actually town-owned land, and this.
It hasn't. Oh, there you go. Now we see it, Kim. Okay.
Oh, it didn't advance.
I didn't see it until just now.
Okay, so a little slower. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, I'm still getting unstable internet, so. So anyway, this land right here is all new. It was built up by the town. There was a bad erosion problem at the seaward edge. And so they've changed the slope to something a little bit more gradual. And because at high tide, the water comes right up to the new toe wall, and I'll show you that in a second. They've built this walking path that kind of goes up the hill and then down the other side. So you can go in either direction. And for our purposes today, we're going along the beach. And I see it's slow. Now I have a blank screen. Okay, there we go. So this is when you get down on the beach, if you were to look to your left, this would be southwest. You're looking down the beach towards the entry to the new harbor, which is right in here. This is actually shows the breakwater. And this was taken at low tide, obviously, which is a great time to walk. A lot of sand is filtered in. And so this would be looking in the other direction, looking north, really see, but I think hopefully I'm pointing out right here that there's the new toe wall. And we'll go. This is a really beautiful beach to walk right now. And right now, this week, low tide is, today it's about 9 o'clock, and it'll be progressing an hour every day. So if you are on Block Island and you wanted to go here at low tide, the morning is going to be good this week. This is at about, if you go down, we've walked from number 1, which is just around this corner, and we've come this way to the north. And these stones right here are the new revetment, and they're meant to take the energy of the ocean to keep erosion from happening. And at least for now, it looks like it's done pretty well, because last year, all of this sand was not here. It was a cobble beach, so it's definitely building up sand in front of it, which will definitely help with the erosion. Now, this is actually a little video, so be patient. Okay, so you get a little look at what it looked like yesterday, at least. And those ponds are the ones I mentioned just a little bit earlier that go along the coast. At the I've come around I've come from spot number 1, and I've come around the new project, the new slope. And this is just a great image of sort of man and nature. Almost everything, not everything, but a lot of things in this vision are the result of human activity. The green, the plants up on the slope were all planted when they put in the work last year. And a lot of these stones are part of the toe wall. They brought in a huge number of stones. Imagine that, they brought them from the mainland for Block Island. But the reason we needed to do this was because erosion was very severe, and because this had been part of the landfill, there's lots of garbage from the 70s and 80s in this area that was eroding out, so they needed to remove it. They, meaning the town, us. But you can see hunks of metal still, and mostly it's the metal that's left, parts of old vehicles and pumps and, you know, anything that would have been made of steel. So you have to be careful when you're walking around, but it can be very sculptural. You'll find all of a sudden a beautiful old, wheel from an old car or something, and the way it is rusting and barnacles building up on it can actually give a good sculptural look. To me, it's a great reminder that we humans do things that not always good for the earth, but the earth and the human beings need to figure out how we're going to coexist. And at the moment, it's imperfect, but it is the best coexisting we can do. And this area is going to continue to be battered because of rising sea levels and more extreme storm activity. So it'll be very interesting to see how this revetment process is going to hold up in the long term. Certainly now it has done what it was supposed to do. It's removed the garbage from the area, it's changed the slope, and it has actually allowed a lot of sand to build up in front of it. But I suppose a hurricane would probably make short work of it. And after we get over a shock of a hurricane, we'll be interested in the experiment that is this project. So as we go along, we're going to start going up the, as we're going along the beach, we notice a couple of plants that are unique to the dune system. This is a plant, it's very leathery leaves. It's called sea rocket. And in the center, I think I'll wait a second, but in the center is a beautiful little lavender flower. You hardly ever see them in bloom. They're in bloom right now. And after a while, they're going to produce this seed pod that looks like a rocket. And when it ripens, it sort of gets propelled by its own energy. You know, it's physics of the seed pod expanding, propels it away from the plant so that it can start a new plant somewhere else. Another great plant that you see on the beach that's on dune systems that's very, both of these plants and all the ones I'm going to show you are especially adapted to survive in sand, low water, wind, very poor nutrients, and they have lots of adaptations to help them do that. In the case of the sea rocket, the leathery leaves helps to hold moisture, so it doesn't need so much water. Oops, I accidentally did that. Let's see if I can go back. Yep. So it can hold moisture. And then in case of the other plant, which is dusty miller, also known as beach wormwood, it has a very fuzzy kind of leaf, and those hairs also help it to retain moisture. Let's see if I can make this, so that if you can see that on the sea rocket, you see the little purple flowers. And over on the beach wormwood, I can't really see that well because the pictures of us are over it, but it's a beautiful little yellow spike, what they call a raceme, of little individual flowers. So that's happening right now. And along the beach, we'll also see beach pea. And this is in the pea family, as it indicates. And you can see very sort of the beginning of early tendrils. This plant isn't too far along, but in another week, it'll start to be blooming beautiful purple flowers. And then again, it will have small beach pea pods that can be used by some animals. They're not palatable for humans and not supposed to eat them. Anything I tell you to eat, don't. It's just a rule of thumb. But again, another sand and dune loving plant. And because it's in the pea family, it can do something called fix nitrogen with its roots so that it can actually produce a healthier substrate on which to grow on. Now we're looking at the other end of the path. Earlier I showed you where the post was, where the path started on the south side. This is where it starts on the north side. And it's basically just a path that goes up and over the hill. We've moved back from the edge. And this fence is the fence to the covered over landfill. And so if you get to the top, or when you get to the top, you can look to the left or to the east and see our transfer station, and you can look to the west and see the great blue ocean. So again, man and nature interacting. Along the whole slope of this is this beautiful plant. I've never actually seen it before. It clearly was what they used to stabilize, because the whole bank is now filled with this. This is called sweet clover, and very simple to remember. It's a white sweet clover and yellow sweet clover. And almost all of the bank is in white sweet clover. I only saw this one patch right in the middle of it of the yellow sweet clover. And actually, I wonder if I go back. If you look right here, it's not the greatest photo. There's a bee. These were just crawling with bees, and they were all getting nectar and pollen from the sweet clover. So it's clearly a very good pollinator plant. And this little yellow spot, it had it on both sides of it. It's not part of the bee's body. It's actually the pollen packets. It's picked up so much pollen, and it's going from plant to plant, that it's packed the pollen, the yellow pollen, on the side of its legs. And it'll keep doing that until it goes back to its to the hive, wherever it is. And this may be actually a ground nesting one, but they will then leave the pollen to feed the young. So, but it was amazing, this particular bee, it had these big like pantaloons of yellow pollen. So that's sweet clover. I kind of like this photo just because the juxtaposition of the land and the tide pools in the back. One of the greatest things about going for a walk on Black Island is taking in the textures and the colors in any place you see it. And I'm always very attuned to the soft featheriness of these sweet clover and the sort of the harder of the stones. A couple of other plants that I saw as I went over the path on this one here on my left is St. John's wort. This grows around the island, so we've left the dune area, the sandy area. This is a plant that grows in meadows and along the roads, and St. John's wort is known for its medicinal purposes, and that's quite beautiful. It's blooming pretty well on Block Island. It will bloom throughout the summer, but it has, excuse me, a nice strong blossom blooming season right now in late June and early July. And the same with this other plant over here. This is a plant called common mullein. And this whole spike of individual yellow flowers will, as the season goes on, or the summer goes on, this whole spike will fill up with yellow flowers. And the first blooming ones, such as this, will die back, and then there'll be more and more. So they are known by their very fuzzy leaves. And the bottom leaves at the base of the plant is always fairly large. So very distinctive looking plant on the island that you'll see almost any field that you go to or along the roads. So you don't have to go to West Beach to see these. And then when you get to the top of this sort of over hill pathway, it's really amazing view in any direction. I chose to look south. If I had looked, I should have probably put in one that looked north at the same time, because you would have seen the swamplands that go to the north that ring the ponds that I mentioned earlier. And what you're seeing is, this is the dead end, the road that dead ends at the beach from the transfer station. This is a plant known as Japanese knotweed, but this is a very large marshland, swampland that is between the edge of the ocean and the shrubland of the island. And then this is the spit that goes out to Bean Point and the New Harbor sliver in the background. As I said, it's well worth the little hike up the hill to take a look at it. After seeing this walk, I thought I really should let the town know that it could use a little attention. So if you go there soon, be careful that there are parts where the snow fencing is falling down. Fortunately, it's fallen pretty flat. You can just sort of walk on it or walk next to it. But I'm sure that they'll want to trim this back a little bit. So that's our little mini walk at West Beach. Great time. It's interesting if you go at high tide and you can't get around on the surf, you can just go right up. Oops, well, I didn't mean to do that, but you can go right up on the path and come down on the other side and resume your walk on the beach. So that the reason they put this path in is because below the revetment work at high tide, unless you want to get wet, you can't really get by. So it's a sweet little walk and a great way to think about our impact, human impact on nature. But throughout the island, there's lots of other things happening. Last year, 2 years ago, gray tree frog was detected by one person in one spot. Last year, this gray tree frog was detected in 5 different spots on Block Island. And this is the time of year that in the evening, just after dusk or a little later, that they'll start calling. And we're very interested in knowing how far and if the population of gray tree frog is spreading on the island. So if you go out in the evening, this.
Kim, are you playing? I'm not hearing it. Are you playing? It might just be an internet issue. Might be a little tricky.
Yeah, it's definitely playing here, but it's going to stop us.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll catch up. Oh, that's unfortunate. So it did stop, and maybe it'll catch up. Maybe if you look at this presentation again on our website, it'll be more effective on your individual computers. It's a little trill. It's very distinctive. None of the other frogs on Block Island, of which we have green frogs and spring peepers, sound like it. And if you hear it on Block Island, please let me know or let somebody at the Nature Conservancy know. And because we're really interested in knowing how many places it has, or if it's expanded on the island, and if so, where. With that, I'll go back, I think. Maybe I'll go back.
Oh, there we go. Oh, Dee's playing it, I think. No?
Oh. Somebody's got it. I think there's a big delay. I think it's loading and going. Anyway, are you hearing it now?
No. Kim, I wonder what I'll try to do is I'll try to load it on the website with all the guides and information. So if you, we can make it available that way.
So I just came back to this this view because I think it's, yeah, that'd be great. We're at the end of our presentation for today, and I'd really love to have any questions or comments or, hear what people are thinking about. So you can, I guess, unmute yourself. We're not too many, and just try to take turns.
Thought it was very interesting. It's fun to see Block Island.
Oh, good.
When you're not there.
Will you be coming?
Maybe later. We're still sheltering in.
Uh-huh. Where are you?
In Connecticut.
Connecticut.
You can talk to her. It's unmuted. You can thank her. Just talk.
Where?
Just talk.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Yes, hi. My name's Carolyn Resnick. We have a house on Block Island. I want to thank you. We've not been able to go since February, but we're hoping to come out. And this was a wonderful presentation, and thank you. And I applaud your knowledge and ability to do this.
Well, thank you. It's a learning curve, I'll tell you. And like I said, next Monday we'll be at Fresh Pond. So give us.
Good.
It's going to be a weekly
Okay.
thing. Yep.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Kim. Thank you, Charlotte.
Thank you, Nancy.
It was fun.
I left. Okay.
Enjoyed it.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome. Any other questions or comments?
Actually, Kim, I have a question.
Sure.
What 5 spots on the island has the gray tree frog been identified at?
So we heard them on the duck pond, heard one on the duck pond on Old Town Road by right in the middle of Old Town Road.
Mhm.
One down, or I think maybe 2 down in Ebbets Hollow, which is off a dirt road off of the corner as you go to the school.
Mhm.
A bunch behind Champlin's marina and the little pond back there. One in the pond on the west side, where their horse barn is. It's now owned by Persephone Brown and her family. And the last one, Scott Cummings heard one up by his house, which would have been the backside of John E's tug hole. So,
Right.
so as far as I know, those are the only places they've been detected. And that was last year. This year, I have heard them by Champlin's. But I
Yeah,
actually haven't gone looking yet. So I one of these evenings when it's not too windy, I'm going to go out and just drive around and listen a lot.
Yeah, I was gonna say or follow up. Saturday evening, I was behind the oyster bar, and it sounded like the frog was next to the car. It was so loud. I mean, it was back. It had to have been back in the pond or like that wetland area behind the tennis courts, but it was really, really loud. It was one of the. I felt like it was one of my closer encounters with the sound.
That little pond is definitely what the huge population there compared. All the other sites I mentioned, we're only hearing 1 or 2 frogs.
Yeah.
There, it's constant. I mean, I don't know how they got to Block Island, but I bet it was somewhere near there.
Yeah.
Hey, Kim, I just had a quick question. Is there a concern at all about the fact that there is a new frog species out here or not? I mean, you know.
I asked Scott Buchanan, he's with the DEM. This is his area of expertise. And he wasn't sure. He really didn't think there would be, but that he didn't think that they would outcompete the peeper, which is a type of tree frog, the spring peeper. He thought they mated at slightly different times of the year, and he wasn't concerned enough to say that we should be getting rid of them. But he did suggest that I try to keep tabs on the population and see how it's progressing or not. So, and the green frog, which is the only other kind of frog that we have, is all around the island. In fact, if you are able to listen to that audio, at the very end, the very last sound you hear is a green frog, and it kind of sounds like this. Boom. And so if you are listening to that thing, you'll hear the green frog. They also have a little bit different habitat. They're a little more water-based. The tree frogs are more land-based. They like moist areas, and they like ponds, of course, but the tree frog really is obligated. I mean, the green frog is really obligated to be in ponds and wetlands, where the tree frogs, both the peeper and the gray tree frog, are can be a little bit more terrestrial. So we'll see. Anything else? Any suggestions?
Kim, I thought it was great, you know, being here all the time, same time I have my walks and I don't bother going down West Beach, but now I think I will. So I
Nice
thought it was,
walk.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
definitely.
And it's a great way to walk to the North Light, because
Yeah.
you get a whole different perspective, And if you happen to walk to the North Light, anybody this season, we seem to have a small population of gray seals hanging out this summer. So that's another population that we'll be watching to see if it's how long it hangs out this summer and how many, whether or not it's about 60 of them in that area now. So, and of the seals that we see, they're by far the largest and have an elongated face like a horse, as opposed to a short, little, cute face of a puppy, which would be a harbor seal. So you never know what you're going to see.
Are there going to be any other Zoom programs through the Conservancy?
Well, I'll be doing one of these at a new place every Monday. And then I'm hoping to add, I used to do art in nature. So I'm hoping to add an art in nature program with an artist where I'll be handling the animal or the nature artifact. And the artist will talk about what it's like to try to draw that. But I haven't quite put that together. And I may do some pop-up ones if something of interest comes along. I'm doing some experimenting with a trail camera, and if I get any good footage, I might just do a pop-up program built around that. So
What about the bird banding?
yeah, I will. Of those pop-up, I plan to do at least 2 this summer, where I will just do my bird banding without anybody there, and then do a video of it and talk about what I'm doing with each bird and the species. So, so that bird banding will not be in person this year. I am also doing something called the social distance bird walk, which I've been doing all spring and I'm going to keep doing this summer, where I encourage people to do birding wherever they are and send in their report on if people bird wherever they are in the same day, and then send in their reports, and then I put it together in an interesting list of things that we're seeing on Block Island, and then another list of things that we're seeing from afar. And so far, I've had contributions from Florida, Massachusetts, and Washington, Oregon, England, and Norway. So, and that's been fun. You might have seen those, I think.
Right, I did.
Yeah, so the next one will be the first Tuesday in July, which is next week. So I'm just kind of trying to figure out how to be a virtual naturalist, and I may dream up other things as we go along and just add them in and do the best I can. Yeah.
So I'm sorry, Kim, I didn't want to interrupt, but Polly, we're going to try to put all this information on a website that we've created called natureblockisland.org. I just shared it in the chat. So that's where we're going to try to list all of Kim's virtual programs. So you can go there to see what's happening. And
Well, that's great.
And hopefully by the end of the summer, who knows, maybe I'll be able to do some one-off things. I think I'll be angling, trying to get permission to do something for family groups if they contact us. But I need authorization from the organization as a whole, and we're not anywhere close to that yet. Fair enough, Charlotte? Is that right? Yeah. So, all right. Well, I hope you'll come back, Polly and Sam. It's nice to see familiar faces.
Well, we plan to virtually and actually at some point.
Good. We still have my Wednesday bird walk at Andy's Way in the schedule for September. Whether or not we do it, it's hard to tell, but
Good.
it's in the schedule if we're allowed to do it. So, all right,
Well, we'll hope to catch some.
good. That'd be great. Yeah, and maybe, yeah. And if you have ideas about things you'd like to see, definitely send them my way. I'm at kim.gaffett@tnc.org. And I'm always willing to take suggestions and whatnot.
I just
Thanks,
shared that in
Kim.
the chat as well, so if you could just grab that as well.
Okay.
Oh, chat. I didn't see that. Okay.
Correct. I think you probably get those anyway because I get when I send the bird announcement. I think you're on my list, Polly.
Mhm. Right.
I'm gonna see what happens when I hit stop share and see if there we go. And see you all a little bigger. So anyway,
I thought it was really great, Kim. You did a really awesome job, and I learned a lot too. I made a list of the vegetation. This week, Tag and I are heading out into the marsh for veg plot monitoring, and we'll come across the sea lavender, maybe see fringes of the clover. Well, I'm gonna, now that I have a visual and then I'll list of the names, I'll keep an eye out, especially in the upper parts of the marsh where the washover area is.
I'll be really interested to hear if you see sea clover, sweet clover.
Yeah.
Because I've never really noticed it before, and clearly that's what they use to plant that hillside, because the whole hillside is filled with it.
Yeah.
So
Why did they
either-
decide that, Kim? What would you
I
say?
don't- Well, I'm not sure that they decided it or the fill they brought in had it.
Had it and then just,
So
Yeah.
I'll probably try to find out. They must have records at the town of what the spec called for, and if it
Mhm.
called them. I'm sure they probably used it because it's so hardy and just it's doing so well, and because it is in the pea family also. It also fixes nitrogen, so it will build up the soil and be potentially very stabilizing. So, but I thought they also planted a lot of beach grass. I mean, they covered the whole thing in beach grass, and there's not a stitch of it up there.
Really?
So,
Huh.
so
That's really outcompeted the,
yeah, and yeah, so it could very well be that they didn't plant the sweet clover, that it was in the fill. But I'll try to do a little research on that. Yeah. Well, I guess if there's nothing else, I'll sign off
and we'll do this again next week.
next week. Thanks, Charlotte.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate the
Oh,
help.
God. Thank you, Kim. I really enjoyed it. I never get to go out on the walk, so this was great. Okay. All
Okay,
right, so we'll end it. Okay. Well,
sure.
thanks, Sam. Thanks, Polly, for coming. Bye,
Thanks,
Ty.
Ty. Thanks, Dee.
Yeah. See
Bye.
you later.
Bye.